Well, good morning, and thank you for the lovely introduction, Tricia. I want to just kind of give like a brief overview because I have kind of a weird, I think a weird career path to where I am today, but just kind of help you guys connect the dots of how what you're doing at SAC now, whatever your, you think your career trajectory is at this moment in time and how it really can go anywhere with the foundation that you're getting from San Antonio College. And then talk to you guys a little bit about what we do at KGB Texas, and then razzle dazzle you with some creative that we've recently put together for some of our clients. So as Trish mentioned, I did go to San Antonio College twice and worked on the Ranger. I was an editor twice, managing editor, and did I do AE? I think I did. Arts and Entertainment. I started out as a photographer, and that is exactly how I got into writing, because I am a terrible photographer. And Miss Odom was kind enough to say, but you're a really good writer and you should stick around. And so I did. And I think that foundation was really, it is the foundation of everything I've been able to do in my career. When I transferred to Southwest Texas after doing some traveling, I lived in Hawaii for a year and then the Czech Republic for a year. When I came back to finish my degree, my advisor at Southwest said, well, you went to SAC. That's a great school. You went through the journalism program. You worked on the Ranger. Go find something else to do so you don't get bored and drop out of school again, because you're basically going to learn everything that you learned at SAC here. You already have that knowledge base. So I did end up getting my degree in broadcast because at the moment, I just wanted to finish my degree. So I didn't venture too far away from the journalism path. I got my degree in electronic media with a focus on television. I interned at Channel 4, which I think it might have already been WOAI. They switched from KMOL to WOAI at some point. I interned there in the technical direction area, production. They offered me a job as a morning producer, or like an associate producer, which meant I would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Excuse me, 2 o'clock in the morning. And this was before I had actually graduated. So they said, you'd come in at 2, work your shift, and then you could go take classes in the afternoon. I'm like, no, that does not sound fun at all. And I think it was a good experience. I liked it. I still am kind of fascinated by, TV production and RTVF, but I just realized that it wasn't in my heart to do, and it wasn't, the career path that I wanted to take. So when I did graduate, I got a job at the Express News as an editorial assistant, which basically meant that I was a phone jockey. I answered the city desk phone. I delivered faxes to people. I checked cell phones and Jeeps out to people. I put the daily budget for the newspaper together for the budget meetings. So basically a clerk, but it was a great experience because I was sitting in the nucleus of the newsroom, and this was when the Express News was much bigger. And they had, 2 buildings of people working on the newspaper instead of 1, which they don't even have now. And I think it was better than any internship that I could have gotten in print, because I got to, sit with the photo editor and the city editor and the assistant city editor and really just get a feel of everybody's jobs and responsibilities in the newsroom. And I also got to, because I was, I was chained to a desk answering a phone, I also got to do, we'd call them phoners. So if there was a story that didn't require me to leave the newsroom and go report on it and just report it by phone, then I could do that. So they quickly learned that I had a lot more skill than just answering phones, and I got promoted to a general assignments reporter. And then shortly after that, they assigned me to City Hall. And so I covered City Hall for almost 4 years. And then was recruited out of the City Hall Bureau by the county judge to be the public information officer for Bexar County. And even though print still flows, or ink still flows through my veins, I took the opportunity because it also happened to be about the time that the Express News started laying people off and downsizing. And so, I was very young in my career, but I had also just bought a house in San Antonio and didn't really want to leave all of that behind. And so I took the opportunity to go work at Bexar County, which was incredible. I was there for 9 years. As the public information officer, I dealt a lot, obviously, with, public relations, but also a lot of event planning, speech writing, opinion piece writing, crisis communications, emergency management communications. And then, so I really got a pretty well-rounded, toolbox, I guess you could say, through the county. And I got to work on some pretty cool projects too, that had nothing to do with public relations, like establishing the first digital public library in the country called Bibliotech, if you haven't heard of it. And now they have 3 branches, I think. So, that was pretty exciting to like get in on the ground level of that. And, how are we going to execute, this crazy idea that this crazy old man had about a library with no books, no physical books in it. And then I decided to leave the county because I felt like I could do that job in my sleep. And I was not, some people go to the county because they want to retire from there. And that was not where I wanted to retire from. And I didn't want to sleep through my job for the next, 20 years. And so an opportunity came up at KGB Texas to, at the time, it was pitched to me as you'll work on public affairs. And so this was a new area of the business that Katie Harvey, our CEO, was trying to grow. She started out as a one-woman PR band almost 30 years ago. And she's slowly added disciplines to her agency to where we are now, we either call it a full service agency or an integrated agency, but that means that we do public relations, advertising, and public affairs. So initially I was just working on all of our public accounts like via Metropolitan Transit, CPS Energy. We had the Vista Ridge water pipeline. We were doing public affairs and stakeholder engagement on that. I think what else I worked on. Oh, San Antonio Airport. And now I have pretty much that whole integrated experience. So whereas before I was just doing public affairs, and if one of my clients needed advertising, I would go to somebody in advertising and say, hey, help me out with this. Now as the account supervisor on an integrated team, they call it, I do it all. So it's really been a huge learning curve to go from just public affairs and public relations to advertising, because it's just it's a very different creature. It's fun. It's absolutely fun, but it's a very different creature from what I'm used to. So my responsibility as an account supervisor is to kind of oversee the strategy for our clients. I have a client load of about 10, which is a lot. I think average should be about 5 or 6, depending on the size of the clients. But I do have about 10 right now. And so we oversee the strategy, make sure that, what we're doing, whether it's PR or advertising, kind of all flows together, meets the client's objectives and their goals, and also kind of keeping an eye on what they don't even know they need. So looking ahead, looking what's happening on industry trends, and making recommendations to them about how, they can move their strategy along. It's also a lot of mentorship of junior staff and just making sure that everybody's, meeting deadlines, staying in their budget, and, catching things too, like learning about my clients, knowing, no, they're going to hate that idea. Like we shouldn't even recommend that. One thing that I think the most illustrative example of this is we had a video shoot for CPS Energy, and it was a campaign we were calling Power to Dream. And this is when, and I'll show you something from that campaign in a second, but this was also when there was a whole lot of, it's continuous, but there was like a real kind of fever pitch political discussion about Dreamers and the Dream Act. And so there was a chief customer engagement officer at the time. She's retired since, but she was very adamant that we were not going to call their employees Dreamers. And, there shouldn't be anything in any of our campaign assets that make reference to Dreamers. And she almost nixed the whole Power to Dream idea just because of that. But we persevered, we got it through. But I was on the video shoot, and one of the little girls in the video had a bathing suit on that said dream, or I'm a dreamer or something. And I was like, no. We can't do that. We will all be fired on the spot. Please don't do that. So they were able to shoot around it, so we didn't have to send her back into wardrobe. But it's just, little things like that. When people ask me, to kind of describe my job, I'm a cat wrangler. That's really what I do. Is I wrangle people, I wrangle schedules, just kind of make sure that everything's moving along quickly, and like I said, on deadline. Everything's deadline driven. Does anybody have any questions so far? I feel like I did a very terrible job at explaining my job. All right, I'll keep going.
So what did the Ranger teach you about meeting deadlines?
Oh my God, deadlines are king. It's interesting because I don't get the sense that like people coming out of school now are deadline driven. And I don't understand that, because you have deadlines in your regular classes outside of journalism. You have due dates when a paper is due or when this assignment's due. And, having to contribute to the newspaper, to an actual product that had to get out the door at a certain time because you had to meet, press deadlines and that sort of thing. If you don't meet your deadlines, you're holding everything up, and you're really kind of screwing over your team. In advertising, if you don't meet your deadlines, you're burning your clients' money. And, I'm kind of struggling with that right now, because there's just like a huge volume of campaigns happening for one of my clients right now. And then, our team is just like burning the midnight oil, trying to keep up with everything. And so some of those advertising campaigns, we have to, if we know we're not going to be able to meet a creative deadline to get, an ad on TV or a billboard posted, our media team has to go back and renegotiate those contracts, which, takes a lot of time. And sometimes it ends up costing more money because, we're having to buy space, on TV at a different time, or it's, space is scarce, or that billboard that they wanted on, 410 and Vance Jackson has gone away and it's not available anymore. So we have to go hunt, and the billboard that we do find might be more expensive. So, so deadlines in advertising really mean money.
And how do you get the people that you mentor to meet those deadlines? What are the consequences for them and their jobs and their future if they don't?
Well, I haven't had to haven't had to fire anybody, but I think, I mean, you know, obviously we're human and we're going to make mistakes. And, you know, we just have to figure out what caused somebody to miss a deadline. How do we fix it? And then, you know, I have seen this on other teams. You if you continue to make the same mistakes, then you're gonna be fired. But the one thing that I appreciate about KGB and the team that we do have in our leadership is that they are very heavy on mentorship. And so, you know, from their mentorship of me as an account supervisor, but then also encouraging us to nurture those relationships with our junior staff and, you know, sit down, identify the challenges, and then figure out how we're going to address them. And really looking at challenges as opportunities for improvement. So
now, I know you've hired a lot of photographers and videographers for different projects. So you negotiate a contract with them, and then if they don't meet their deadline, then it would, of course, set you back, but you would also just not hire them as freelancers anymore, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so in fact, I was just working with a freelancer on a project in Rockport. And he, you know, gave me his estimate. The client approved it. We scheduled, you know, we gave him kind of a general timeline of when we needed the photos from him. And he pushed it off until the last minute. And then it just started raining, like Rockport flooded. And then I think that was the weekend that he said he was going to go. And he called me, you know, during the week and was like, "Oh, I'm going to make it out there Friday." And I was like, "No, you're not. Like, I don't know if you've looked at a radar recently. It does not look good." And I mean, it was torrential downpour for days. For days, we were in a disaster zone. And so I live on the coast, by the way. I work remotely from Port O'Connor. So anyway, he was like, "Well, I've got it, you know, is there any way that I can push this until," I think it was August, mid-August, because I've really got to get to Mexico to my family's property. I was like, "No, I mean, if you can't, as soon as it stops raining, if you can't make it out there, I'm going to have to hire somebody else." And no, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm like, okay. So you're going to put off your trip to Mexico. Yes, this is important. This is priority. But on the other hand, I had a client that was like, "Where's our photos? What's going on?" And it wasn't an advertising client. So there was, you know, flexibility in it, but still they had timelines that they were holding us to, and we weren't going to meet them with that little snafu. So yeah. But I think, you know, freelancers, because, you know, they've got to hustle to be able to eat. So I think for the most part, the freelancers that I work with are really good about turning stuff around quickly, because obviously the more jobs they can do, the more they can eat and support their families. So yeah. But that does lead me into, you know, some advice on soft skills. You guys are going to learn all the hard skills you need with the faculty at SAC and, you know, wherever you choose to finish your degrees. But the one thing you're probably not going to learn in school are the soft skills that really help you. And especially in any communication field, whether you do RTVF or PR or print or anything, well, especially creative. Direction isn't criticism, and even criticism isn't the end of the world. And I think more and more I'm seeing younger staff who are unable to handle taking direction. They take it as an affront, I guess, to their character. I'm not really sure. But I think that, you know, you've got to have thick skin. Nobody's going to love all of your work all of the time on the first try. And so you've got to be able to look at direction as an opportunity to make your work better and make yourself a better employee or a better person to, get a job done. I already said great challenges as opportunities, especially, like when they told me that basically I'm, an integrated account supervisor. VIA grew their business from public affairs and public relations into full-blown advertising. And, I'm the account supervisor for VIA. So guess what? I get to do advertising. And that's like I said, it's been a huge challenge for me, but it's also been an opportunity for me to, grow my experience, my range of skills. Always be your worst critic. So people will send me something that they've written. And I'm like, you clearly didn't read this after you wrote it. I had a team member who was a 20-year career journalist who gave me her self-evaluation with grammar and typos, grammar errors and typos and misspellings. And part of the self-evaluation was how she contributes to the team as this great writer. Like, but you're not even critiquing your own work, or you would have caught something like this. But also, I think just we are our worst critics, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Don't let your major now or what you get your degree in define your career trajectory. A friend of mine and I were talking about this, and her boyfriend is he got his degree in kinesiology. And now he's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar cybersecurity company. And I think she was in law school before she became an advertising executive. So I just think that, and like mine, my degree's in broadcast journalism, and I've never had a paid position in a TV station. So I think that.
Am I supposed to be in this class?
I'm
What
gonna
is
say
this?
no.
What is this?
For news photography, are you looking for the news photography class?
Oh yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to be in photography.
Oh, okay.
All right, my bad. Yeah, have a good day.
Have a good one.
Oh,
Sorry, Laura.
That's okay. We were talking about that earlier. And then the other thing is seek out mentors, and mentors are going to guide you through kind of the soft skills that you're not going to learn. They're going to teach you everything about a job that you're not going to get out of a textbook. And I think some people tend to think they need mentors early in their careers, but really it's lifelong. I think that you should have people that you look to for advice, and just kind of a shoulder to cry on if you need it, and somebody to pump you up if you need it, and somebody to tell you that you're completely sideways and you need to get your shit together. I think that's what I'm going to stop there and razzle dazzle you with my creative examples. So I wanted to show you, sorry, Miss Odom and Irene and Trish, you see this every time I talk, but I just love this spot. This is the Power to Drain campaign that we did with CPS Energy. The whole idea was, CPS Energy is a very technical business. They're either financial people, field workers, or engineers. So they're very, kind of black and white. people. So the CEO had this philosophy of people first. She wanted everybody all of her employees to think of everything that they do through the lens of the community, because they are a community-owned utility, but also through their teammates, and then the customers being the most important. And that means not looking at the customer as a ticket for, my power's out and I have to get it reconnected, but what does it mean to that person that their power is out? What does it mean to the business owner whose power goes out? But what does it also mean to help a business owner get their power connected so that they can open their dream business? And so that's where the whole Power to Dream came from. Also, as employees, they have dreams, so we interviewed employees who had a dream, their dream was to provide a better life than they had for their children and send their kids to college. And so they found this great job at CPS Energy with a great salary that allowed them to do that. So it was an internal campaign. So we did a lot of work with the employees to help them realize their own value, but then also the value of their teammates. And we did some really fun exercises where we kind of created almost like movie posters, and had them, find a word that was their superpower. So as an example, the consultant that I worked with on this, we did a small little workshop with the communications team at CPS. And so as an example, my superpower was listening. So, and then we wrote a little description about how, listening helps me be a better teammate for the people that I work with, because I take information and I process it and I don't just talk to talk. When I say something, it actually has meaning behind it. And so then we did a fun little poster. Sorry, I didn't have it up in my little basket of razzle dazzle, but we did a little poster where, I was leaning forward with my ear like that, put an orange wash on it, put listening across the top of it. And then we had this kind of red carpet event where I think we ended up doing 150 posters for them. And we had a red carpet event where we displayed the posters, and they, invited their family members, and we had refreshments, and Paula spoke, and then a couple of the employees spoke about what that exercise meant to them and how it strengthened their team and helped them really see the value in each other. So for the external, we found two examples of how actual energy, electricity, and natural gas made two people's dreams come to light. We called it Dreams to Light. The one I'm going to show you is Gordon Hartman. He's, well, he was a real estate developer. He got out of that business and is pretty much philanthropist, just giving his money. But he started Morgan's Wonderland for his daughter, who she has cognitive disabilities, I believe. Anyway, he watched her grow up with places that didn't accommodate her and didn't accommodate people in wheelchairs and didn't allow them to, amusement parks aren't built for people who, need assistive devices. So he created Morgan's Wonderland out of a quarry. And the CPS played a really big role in that because there was no power going out to this, blasted out piece of land. So our whole campaign was based on light as an energy source. So let me bring this up. Okay.
CPS Energy, power to dream.
The funny thing about that tagline, that spot never saw the light of day. It was never put out into market. Our intent, obviously, it's a bit longer than a normal TV ad, but our intent was to put it in theater advertising. And by the time we had finished the productions and done some of our internal work on the internal campaign, CPS was moving in a different direction and didn't want to put the funding behind it. So I have to show that spot as much as I can. But here's another one. This one did see the light of day. And this spot was running beginning of this year. And this is a really important thing in communications to remember, is that you have to pivot, and you have to pivot quickly when the world starts changing. So we had this spot in market when Winter Storm Uri hit and tried killing us all. And people were furious with CPS Energy. And so we had to, like, the minute that we realized how bad the situation was, we had to get it pulled from all the stations. There were billboards out that we had to get pulled down because it just wasn't a very good look for CPS to have all this, you know, flashy advertising out there while people were freezing in their homes. But this is a really good spot, I think. It's kind of carrying on that trajectory of showing their employees as more than just a worker at a utility company. Let's do this again.
I'm Carla, and I'm on the team at CPS Energy that focuses on the environment every day. Like you, we care about our environment. We started using renewable energy more than 20 years ago, and now San Antonio is #1 in Texas for solar energy and #5 in the country. The Flexible Path strategy continues our transition to a cleaner energy future while keeping your bills affordable and your power reliable. We're proud of our environmental responsibility because San Antonio is our home too.
So again, that one, you know, obviously it does talk directly about CPS's business. Power to Dream, we were trying to get people to think about CPS not as, you know, the pipes and pole company. I see a question. So I was going to tell you, the Power to Dream spot, we did 2 spots. So we did the one with Morgan's Wonderland. The second one we did with Jose Campos from Commonwealth Coffee. We shot both of those in 2 days. And then post-production, I think, probably took maybe about a week or a week and a half. And so from planning, I mean, when you know, from the actual concept to a final product, depending on how quickly your client moves and makes decisions, it can happen really fast. It can happen in a matter of just weeks. Sometimes it can take a little bit longer because you kind of have to coddle the client to accept your vision or your creative director's vision, and sometimes just go back to the drawing board and find something that everybody can agree on. And then I'm going to show you what our latest for VIA, since we're bumping up on time. So most of you are probably too young to know about the Buffets from VIA. But in the early 80s, there was, VIA had a commercial with Henry Cisneros and a bus full of kids who were traveling all over San Antonio, you know, bopping back and forth to this fun little jingle about all the places that you could go in San Antonio on the bus. And the tagline was, "It's so easy." So the recall on that campaign is insane. When we do focus groups for VIA on their advertising and ask them, you know, do you recall seeing, hearing, reading, blah, 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 blah. No, but man, that VIA, like bring the puppets back. So as long as I've been working on their account, which is almost 5 years, we've been, you know, saying, we've been hearing bring the Puppets back. Well, we couldn't bring the Puppets back, but we did bring the jingle back, and we rewrote it to modernize it a little bit, re-recorded it, and then did a really fun spot on which I did it with color that plays with a lot of color. It's really not out of character, but it's a very different feel for VIA if you've seen any of their recent advertising. So this, I think I can just do a regular screen share. And I struggled trying to get this one to play properly. So we're gonna have to do it from this PowerPoint presentation.
Into the office, anywhere you want to go is where to start.
Oh wait, is it stopping? No. Okay. There. So I love that spot. It's so much fun. We have a second version of it. We also have it in Spanish. And then the client has asked us to kind of think of some out of the box ways that we can carry it through an extended campaign. So we're looking at, you know, everything from like Facebook frames to GIFs and an extended version of the song. We just got an estimate approved to have like a 30, well, to take it from 30 seconds, I think, to about maybe 2 minutes max. Create Spotify playlists that are all about, you know, easy writing, traveling, adventure, that sort of thing. So it's been a lot of fun to work on. Dr. Lowe. Oh, yeah, I think soft skills are a whole range of things. Definitely interpersonal communication. I think they're even in a communication field, and I've saw this at the Express News. I see it at the agency. We're mass communicators, but we have the hardest time communicating with each other. And so I think that's definitely a soft skill that, you know, everybody, it's like a lifelong journey to work on that. Yeah, accepting criticism, receiving instructions, even just showing up to work on time can be a struggle for people. It's funny, we were in a agency meeting, and somebody was congratulated for getting up at really early to be at an event at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I was just at the Tobin Center at 6:30 in the morning for setup for an event. What is this really early? And that's, you know, I'm 3 hours away from San Antonio. So I think, you know, just responsibility is another one, you know, just responsibility and accountability. If you mess up, own it. You know, don't try to deflect it or make it somebody else's problem or make yourself a victim. Yeah, I think does that answer it, Dr. Lowe?
Yeah. Because I feel sometimes students they didn't turn in their homework, and they make a lot of excuses. I mean, but you didn't turn in your homework. That's the fact, right?
Yeah.
It seems like it makes sometimes they make it like, well, I should be excused. No, that's not the way. The world out there is not like that. Right?
The other thing I want to point out is, communications, no matter which area you go into, it's not an 8 to 5 job. And so you will work on weekends, you will work on nights, you will go on vacation and get a phone call. I'm trying to take 4 hours off this afternoon, and I know that it's not going to be 4 hours of uninterrupted fun for me. That, I have projects that are still going. I'm going to have to check in on email. So yeah, I think it's really important to recognize that, and sometimes you can't take the vacation that you want to when you want to because your client has other priorities, and you need to accept that. We had an agency team member just out of the blue say, "Oh, I have an opportunity to go to Colorado. I want to go." I was like, "Well, your clients have some really big projects next week." And I was like, "Yeah, but I already bought the plane ticket." I'm like, "Well, you probably shouldn't have done that until you knew that you could take it off." She ended up going. We're not, it's not a communist society, but still. I think it's important to know that, yeah, it's a 24/7 job. It can be. It's not all the time. Any other questions?
There's one more question there. Over there in the chat.
I should probably put my glasses on. There we go. That's a good question. Yeah. So when we're responding to new business opportunities, sure, we absolutely research the client to make sure that it's a fit that, a good fit for us. One thing that Katie is really big on is that our work has to have consequence in the community, and that means we work with people that have consequence in the community. So, our clients are pretty broad range. She doesn't just stick in, one vertical, which is why she's been so successful. But, there have been opportunities that we've looked at and just said, I don't think that's going to be a good fit for us. And then definitely once we do get the business, we really dig into research on their business, on the industry that they're in. Usually most of our clients, we start off with a strategy session, and it's usually about 2 to 3 hours. Prior to that strategy session, we have to do a lot of research on, like I said, the business or the industry, but then also the competitive landscape and what we think their, objectives might be, get their priorities from them, and then figure out how we, map out how we go forth. So the question is if I have advice for somebody interested in doing what I do. I think the best piece of advice I can give you is make sure that you take every opportunity you can to learn new things. Sometimes I think people try to get into fit themselves into a very specific niche. And if you can make a living doing that, great. But more often than not, you're going to need a broad set of skills to be able to make it in communications. And that's this, advertising, PR, journalism, it's all the same. People are more and more are expected to do more things than they originally set out to do, or their background might tell you to do. So I see a hand raised.
Hi, my name is Sarah.
Hi.
And I have a question for you.
Sure.
Be like, Do you like advertisement?
Yes, I do. It is it's fun. It's a lot of fun to be in. Yes, it is stressful. Yes, it is very deadline driven. But at the end of the day, I get to work with a lot of really creative, fun people. And so, I think one thing that I guess led me to the agency from the county was I missed, the newsroom was absolutely fun. I loved working in a newsroom. I loved the energy and the fast pace. And then at the county, it was, obviously a very different creature. And I wasn't around as many creative people as I wanted to be. And so I think that's also part of what drove me to go to the agency, was to be in that feel again of just this high of creativity, always thinking of how to do things differently.
Thank you for answering my question.
Of course. Anybody else?
I have another one. Knowing how competent you are in just about anything I've ever seen you attempt, has it been difficult, and how did you learn to delegate? Obviously, in what you do now, basically you delegate a lot. So how have you learned to let go?
I haven't. Every evaluation I've had at the agency it is hard for me to let go of stuff. Sometimes I feel like I have to remind myself, that by delegating, I'm helping somebody, increase their skills and their ability to do things, or, giving them an opportunity to shine in their work. And so, I have to stop and remind myself, like, you can't do it all. But there are those feelings sometimes where it's like, well, if I have to write out exactly what I want, like say it's for a creative alert. We have a project management system that, we go in and we put in what we need the creative team to produce. And my bosses are like, why are you making creative alerts? I'm like, well, because I know what I need. And if I have to go tell somebody this is what I need, then that time that I, spent telling them this is what I need, I could have just written a creative alert. So
Exactly.
But yeah, that's definitely been a challenge. And especially, at the county, for a while, I was a one-man band. I think for 6 years, I was the only person doing PR for Commissioner's Court and all of the county departments. I didn't have the sheriff or the courts. So this is, really my first experience having a team that I can rely on. And so, yeah, it's been a challenge.
I bet.
Learning. Yes. Somebody? No?
Yes.
No.
I would like to know if you can view the Muppets, the original commercial.
If we can. It's on YouTube. It won't play well through Zoom, but I can definitely send Trisha a link that she can share with you guys. Yeah, it's a fun spot. We laugh about it because we look at the spot and it's like, it's a bus full of white kids. It's a bus full of white kids that got to go to the baseball park and the zoo, and it's real. You will have that song stuck in your head the rest of the day.
Okay, I was gonna say I barely remember. I think the little stuffed toy bus. Okay, so
yeah,
I was.
We use that little piece of nostalgia in the beginning of the spot to kind of tie it together. But I think the actual Muppets, because they are in a case at VIA's headquarters. And I think there were 3 of them, but they apparently were created by somebody who went on to be very successful. And so there's like usage issues with us being able to revive them. And so if you see VIA's mascots today, they have Buster the bus. So they couldn't even, and he's an actual, like, it's an actual mascot suit. It's not a hand puppet. But that's why they had to create something a little bit different because of the usage.